Euroverse.
One of the most troubled Eurovision spin-offs was the short-lived American Song Contest, produced by Eurovision producers Christer Bjorkman and Anders Lenhoff, and with Kelly Clarkson and Snoop Dogg hosting. The show featured big names and upstarts alike, but somehow failed to capture that special Eurovision magic. To help us explore why, we are here with John Carrion. John served as the chairman of the London Gay Men's Chorus from 2013 to 2017, and then has been with the New York City Gay Men's Chorus since October 2021. Welcome, John.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. As you said, I'm the executive director of the New York City Gay Men's Chorus, but definitely here in a personal capacity, so all opinions are definitely my own.
Well, we will be polling all of the members of the New York City Gay Men's Choruses to see if they agree with your song choices.
John is also a major Eurovision fan, which is important for this game. We're going to ask John to use his knowledge of Eurovision to judge these numbers from the American Song Contest.
We're then going to talk with John about how we feel these songs would have played at Eurovision. Hopefully through that, we're going to get at exactly what's missing in the American Song Contest and maybe move towards a sort of understanding of what goes wrong when Eurovision tries to export itself.
But before we get to that, John, what's your relationship to Eurovision and how did you come to it?
So in 2017, my partner, we had been together just a few months, and he said to me, so you know, almost sheepishly, I really love Eurovision. I was like, that's great.
Oh my God. He came out to you.
He came out. It was really nice.
It's like, to be clear, I am straight.
Yeah. I really love Eurovision. I hope that's okay with you. Anyways, the next year comes around and he says, we have a whole group of friends going and we just have a blast. Like, it's so fun. You know, people are getting drinks, having a good time, meeting strangers. I totally get why people love this now.
What do you know about the American Song Contest?
If anything.
Yeah. I remember seeing the signs for it in the subway and I was like, I should watch that. And then I did not watch that.
It's kind of wild how it just came and went.
Yeah.
Even though you have Kelly Clarkson and Snoop Dogg.
Right.
Macy Gray, Jewel, Cisco.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Well, I think they were really trying to prove the point that what separates Eurovision from the average television competition is that established artists are part of it. Like, it would be really weird if suddenly Idina Menzel was like, I'm going on America's Got Talent. Okay, so you're going to click the first clip. And I will say, after talking about Eurovision so many times, there is something about the sentence I'm about to say.
No, I wrote it and I laughed.
First, representing Connecticut.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
We have Michael Bolton with Beautiful World.
Wow. Okay. Got the Industrial Revolution taking place above him. There's more than 6 people on stage, so that's already one big difference I'm seeing. We're making it a beautiful world. I guess my immediate thought is Eurovision doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think sometimes a clip like this very much does.
Yeah, Michael Bolton definitely takes it.
Like, exactly right. Like Finland this year, right? There's a hilarity to that. And even though the performance is excellent, right? But it's obviously meant to be a joke in some ways as well, right?
How dare you? Cha-cha-cha is my Rosetta Stone. It's my Declaration of Independence.
I voted for it. Don't get me wrong. I was absolutely voting for it.
So I was just editing the Sally Ann Triplett interview today. And when she was like praising Loreen by being like, I mean, she's just incredible, sandwiched in that thing. We were like, so why do you think that the UK didn't do well this year? It's just not very good.
With that song in particular, I actually think it was the arena versus television problem. Because when you listen to it and watch it, I just don't think the vocals are as clear as they were in the arena.
That's true. But I also think they staged it as if she was like Beyonce, right? The big photos of her. But the challenge of Eurovision is that even if you're a big star, most people who watch you are seeing you for the first time.
Right.
If we don't know Mae Muller enough, that like that's not going to sell it to me.
Because I also think that lyric is really good.
The opening lyric is so great.
It's the same thing in a totally different way that happened with Taya and Selena's
Who the Hell is Edgar?
Oh my God, you're such a good writer. It's not me, it's Edgar. hell is Edgar? There's a ghost in my body and he is a lyricist. It is Edgar Allan Poe and I think he can resist. Yeah, his brain is in my hand and it's moving really fast.
Watching the music video for both, it like supported the narrative of the lyric. So you then ended up listening to the lyric and watching Mae Muller's performance. As much as I love that song, I was like, I don't understand.
People like us will listen to the songs beforehand, but for most people watching, it's the very first time they've ever seen that song.
The thing that really supports that is like Taya and Selena did really well in the semifinal televote, and they just didn't do well in the grand finale televote when normal people tune in.
Normies. But speaking of doing well, how well do we think Michael Bolton did?
So we're asking, did it make it to the grand final?
I'm going to say yes because it was Michael Bolton.
And you are 100% correct.
Yes, you are.
He finished 7th overall in the top 10, which the entire finale is 10. So, sure, but sounded better.
Now, which land area are we representing next?
So representing the great state of Ohio, and also representing in so many ways my heart, we have Macy Gray with the song Every Night.
Have you seen the state of Ohio? Again, I am struck by how many people are on stage. I like the colors, the huge band back there. It feels fine. There's sort of no lift to it, right? If you think of something that you see in Eurovision, there's always massive staging, people moving everywhere, colors and huge sets. Obviously not every song, but I think that's what makes a lot of Eurovision numbers. Whereas this one sort of, it just sort of ends.
Actually, the stage design of Eurovision is such a huge part of what makes it great. And this feels very much like it's in a theater.
Right.
The back of the stage does one thing, which it opens up.
Right.
And
it's also such a classic thing I think we see from the Super Bowl as well, that when we try to build size, it's like add more people, add more people, add more people. The reason I think you get hamster wheels and burning pianos and all that is you go, right. I can't bring 100 people on stage, so I have to find other ways to get size.
Yeah.
Now,
Macy
you
Gray.
listen to Macy Gray with Every Night. But the question is, did her performance make it to Every Night?
This one, I'm actually going to say no. It was quite a bit less impressive to watch than even the last one. So my guess is no.
You are absolutely correct.
Yes.
She did not even make the semis.
Wow.
So moving from Ohio to Oklahoma, this is Alexa with Wonderland.
There's a lot happening here.
Yeah, she's representing the musical.
This is the musical. This is Rodgers and Hammerstein. So there's a lot going on here. This actually, so far, looks the most Eurovision-like to me, with kind of even the funky floor happening. There's lots of lights going on. There's great staging here. Has enough of a pop beat. You got kind of the star. Wow, what kind of finish there? So this one feels most like Eurovision to me, actually. That feels like it would have done really, really well, like extremely well, would be my guess. I'm guessing that made it to the grand final.
Oh, you are nailing it at this game.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's 3 for 3, baby.
Won the competition.
There you go. See?
And I think there's something like great about the fact that you identified this as the most Eurovision act, because that was kind of my feeling while I was watching these.
Right.
It's dynamic.
Agree.
It's surprising. The staging has the size and lift to it that a Eurovision act
Yep,
does.
absolutely. Eurovision itself, in 1956, obviously it wasn't this because it couldn't be, but it took some time to gain momentum.
That's true.
And a lot of it happened even in the last few years.
So this is Maryland, represented by Cisco.
The song is called It's Up.
So as I'm watching this, there's lots going on here, right? Which I also really like. This fire, which we love in Eurovision. I can't get over how many people are on the stage, but it's big, there's lights, there's a lot going on here. This feels like it would definitely have gone to the grand final. The song itself feels fine.
It's middle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely not up.
It's the same joke.
Oh, see, 2 ways you could make that joke.
So the conclusion, I just want to make sure I don't misinterpret any answers here.
I think it would have gone to the final, this one.
So this is the first incorrect one, John. It failed to make the semi, too.
Oh, wow. Really? I'm surprised by that, actually.
Yeah. As someone who has like a lot of goodwill towards Cisco, I found this very disappointing.
Do you want me to re-record that where I get it right?
Do you want to?
I think it probably didn't even make the semis, is what I would guess.
Oh my God. You were so right.
Yeah. So right.
And now we're moving to the Jewel of Alaska. Jewel, with the story.
Better than she would have dreamed, but that's not the end of the story.
All right, so she's got her hat there. She's singing with the tree in the background. Obviously going for something ice theme there with all the white, would be my guess.
Well, she's
Alaskan nature. Got some pyrotechnics. I want to say that this did not make it because it just isn't giving me much of anything. It feels very bland, but then I feel like you're going to tell me it absolutely did make it. I'm going to go with my instinct. I'm going to say it did not.
I mean, and John, what we learned constantly on this podcast is stick to your guns, be yourself. The message of Eurovision, you're 100% right. This did not make the semifinals either.
Right, okay.
We are coming to our final song, which is Tanel.
Mm-hmm.
She is representing American Samoa with the song Full Circle.
Okay, so it feels in some ways smaller in scale, even with the pyrotechnics. There's a sort of an attempt to bring the Samoan type of culture to the stage because I've seen the trees there. I've never been to American Samoa, but that's my guess.
I've heard that they have trees.
Yeah, I've heard that they have trees. They probably have.
Which is actually,
I think you're right.
Having grown up in Brooklyn is the thing that I say about like every other place. I'm like, they have trees.
My guess is whether or not this would have made the final. Oh, this is a hard one. I feel like it actually might have.
You are correct.
Oh, right.
It did make the final, and it did even better than Michael Bolton.
Yes,
wow.
One better than Michael Bolton,
Okay.
which is really the bar I try to clear.
Sixth
these days.
place, exactly.
Like, this was another number that to me felt like it had a little bit of the Eurovision thing. Like you said, like it's rooted in an actual place.
Right.
I think a huge part of the beauty of Eurovision is that the EBU doesn't get to pick the songs.
Right.
Even the smartest people the EBU could pull together would never be able to curate a list.
Right.
They would have never picked Let 3. They would have never picked Cha 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 or whatever.
Right.
And I think
you can see that they would never do that because the smartest people the EBU can pull together are on the juries.
well, fair. And I do think for the success of that competition, you really needed to feel like people in Oklahoma tuned in being like, go Oklahoma.
Yeah.
When you think about Eurovision countries, whether that's like an internal selection, it's still like always run by the public broadcaster. So there's this sense of like, Mae Muller is representing the UK because the BBC wanted Mae Muller to represent them.
These flags start to mean something.
Right.
Because we all have those countries where we go, I love this country. They always send something crazy.
Yeah.
Or people love or hate Sweden because Sweden will always send a good pop song.
Right.
But some people find it boring.
I think there's also this other thing. They had famous people in the contest, which is the way Eurovision works. It's not Adele and Beyonce on the American Song Contest.
Right.
And Kelly Clarkson is hosting and not performing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the category of famous, it's closer to the UK when they send Bonnie Tyler a little bit. You know what I mean?
Who also didn't do well.
Right.
I also think that in many ways, Eurovision voters are voting for the underdogs in some ways, right? I think they want someone new to win. Maybe if they took a little bit more time to create the national selection, quote unquote, but on the state-by-state scale, maybe more people would feel like, oh, this is who we're sending to this thing.
I am a little bit terrified to see who Florida chooses, though.
Oh, sure.
We're just going to have like half of this country nominate Trump to be in the American Song
But I
Contest.
think this is where you got to, as a producer, be comfortable with the fact that you have to, in certain areas, be hands off.
Yeah.
I understand that to launch a contest like this and then try to do like 56 national finals would be like insane. But even if they could have just partnered with local organizations, I mean, even think Rockwood Music Hall is going to host the competition to select New York's entry, whatever it might be.
Right.
I think could have really created some sort of like grassroots movement in each state where people feel like we sent this.
Was the time just right for Eurovision where you had a really fractured Europe that really needed to find a way to come together around something. Part of the problem is like we don't really have a desire to come together.
But also, even to take something American, take the Super Bowl performance.
Sure.
The first one was Carol Channing.
Oh my God, really?
I think I realized that.
I would have been a football fan.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, exactly.
How did I not know that?
spoiler alert, she was not on a floating platform
Right.
while pregnant. The scale grows. It's
This
like,
is an image I'm not going to be able to get out of my head.
Eurovision Canada was announced. Seems to be on ice.
As many things in Canada are.
Yeah. The Latin American Eurovision seems to be on ice. And then there's been floated the idea of Eurovision India.
Right. Wow.
So the question is there a way to do the Eurovision formula outside of Eurovision today that can be successful?
My guess is that it's initially a problem of scale, right? So if you start too big, you're expecting too much because you're not going to create Eurovision in the United States overnight, right? There's just no way. How did it start? With 7 countries, and then it built slowly from there, right? And now, because it's such a production and you get all this kind of worldwide notoriety, 300 million people watching you on one day, that's what's going to make this work. So I think if you're going to create it, you have to do it small. It's almost like
You start with the tri-state area.
exactly. I was going to say, I was literally about to say like the Northeast, and then you start to build that out.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think that Indiavision feels like probably the one that would be the easiest translation from Eurovision, just because different languages, different ethnicities. I was in Jaipur in India, and I went to see, it was a Bollywood movie, but it was in like a giant theater. The movie was in 4 different languages. Wow. Everyone was transitioning back and forth between languages. Weirdly talking about it now, it's like the closest thing to the Eurovision experience that I've had.
Right.
Everybody is enjoying the same piece of art. And even Eurovision songs in Serbian or Ukrainian are still designed to communicate to people who don't speak the language. So I'm going to put my money on Eurovision India or Indiavision.
I think that's a really key point of Eurovision, right? It's like, so I go and I listen to a song in Italian, not speaking Italian. I can know that I can enjoy that song. You hear people trying to repeat the words who are just doing it phonetically, which is great, right? You will not get that really in the American Song Contest.
I think the thing is that if American Song Contest was going to be successful, it's not going to have the same cultural exchange as Eurovision.
Correct.
Right.
But I do think that when we see what this sort of the feeling of being a flyover state in the US and ignored in the media and all that stuff, I really think there was an opportunity there to make the smaller states, more rural states, feel like they had this television show where they got to send something of theirs.
Right.
I love how in this, it's like the Dakotas are the Balkans.
Well, but
in some ways they are.
But that's the thing. Even when you look at Europe, right, there is this sort of element of that Western Europe has much more access to the world's pop culture than the East has. Yeah. There's never a world where prime time on BBC, there's going to be a song in Serbian.
Correct.
If it wasn't for Eurovision. Right. And then suddenly you find that that song in Serbian is charting outside of that.
Yeah.
Let these states, however it makes sense, pick their artists themselves. Sometimes you're going to find silly things. And once in a while, there might be an artist that's actually having some good traction.
In Eurovision, everybody's on the same playing field, no matter where they are in Europe or what sort of political status, right? And you often see an inversion where you'll see places like Moldova and Serbia at the top, and then the UK and Germany at the bottom.
Right. But Eurovision does have this sort of dual identity, right? Like big commercial festival. It's also run by an association of public broadcasters. And so when you talk about places with smaller populations who don't have great advertising demographics, how do we elevate them? You know, I think that's probably a harder thing to do when you're on a commercial network. And when you're like, I'm producing a television show that is supposed to get ratings, period. Right. There is something that gets a little scary when we talk about some of these states forming a bloc. I'm like, we're one step away from secession.
No, but that's how I think we're going to get gay rights. I think that Eurovision gave us more gay rights.
With so much representation that had to be broadcast in, that you couldn't opt out of that, right?
Totally.
Exactly.
I literally thought you were saying the way that we were going to get more gay rights is if some of these states secede from...
Oh, no. I mean, a little bit of both.
Yeah. If each one has their own sort of quote-unquote national selection, right, their state selection, that's what's going to give them the pride in that person, right? I think that's so essential to the identity of the contest, and it provides the variety that makes it interesting, right?
Yes. I also will say, I think the other other thing is, if they also created this idea that the winning state would host, the idea that it could bring a ton of money into the state, financial incentives are important too.
It's true.
I think that's the conclusion, that they basically need to do a season 2, but they need us on the production team.
John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This was great.
And I can't wait for us to get working on season 2 of the American Song Contest.
Yes.
Amen.
All the mysteries of the Eurovision.